50 years after the screwball comedy What's Up, Doc? Charmed audiences with its madcap chase scenes and witty dialogue, the tragic reality sets in that several beloved cast members who brought us such joy have left us forever. This classic Peter Bogdanovich film starred Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal in a whirlwind of mistaken identities and romantic hijinks. But behind the timeless laughter lies a somber truth. Death has claimed some of its most memorable performers, from the film's leading man to its scene-stealing character actors, each leaving behind unforgettable moments that now serve as their final bow. Madeline Kahn. When Madeline Kahn first appeared on screen as Eunice Burns in What's Up, Doc? In 1972, audiences had no idea they were witnessing the birth of one of comedy's greatest talents. Her portrayal of Howard Bannister's uptight and neurotic fiancé was nothing short of brilliant, turning what could have been a thankless supporting role into a scene-stealing masterpiece. Kahn's Eunice was a woman wound so tight she practically vibrated with anxiety, delivering lines like "I'm coming in" with such perfect vocal inflection that the phrase became legendary among comedy fans. This was her feature film debut, and she announced herself as a major talent with every perfectly timed grimace and exasperated sigh. Born in Boston in 1942, Kahn discovered her love for performing early in life. She studied speech therapy at Hofstra University on a drama scholarship, where her professors quickly recognized her exceptional voice and comedic timing. Her classical training as an opera singer gave her the vocal control that would become her trademark, allowing her to shift from whispered vulnerability to piercing shrieks with incredible precision. After college, she moved to New York City, where she began working in theater, slowly building a reputation as a gifted performer who could make any character memorable. Her breakthrough in What's Up, Doc? Led directly to her most famous collaborations with director Mel Brooks. She earned back-to-back Oscar nominations for Paper Moon in 1973 and Blazing Saddles in 1974, establishing herself as one of the funniest women in Hollywood. Brooks once said she was one of the most talented people that ever lived, and her performances in Young Frankenstein and High Anxiety proved his point. On Broadway, she won a Tony Award in 1993 for The Sisters Rosenzweig, showing her range extended far beyond film comedy. In October 1999, Kahn publicly announced she was battling ovarian cancer, hoping to raise awareness about a disease that often goes undetected until it's too late. She had been fighting the illness for a year in private, undergoing aggressive treatment while continuing to work. On December 3, 1999, just 2 months after marrying her longtime partner John Hansberry, Kahn died at age 57. Her husband was by her side, along with her brother. Madeline Kahn left behind a legacy of laughter that continues to bring joy to new generations of fans. Her unique voice and fearless commitment to comedy created characters that remain unforgettable decades later. Kenneth Mars. In What's Up, Doc? Kenneth Mars brought unforgettable energy to the role of Hugh Simon, the rival musicologist determined to win the research grant that Howard Bannister so desperately needed. Mars created a character that was both threatening and hilarious, speaking in what he claimed was Croatian but was actually a completely made-up language that director Peter Bogdanovich encouraged him to improvise on the spot. His Hugh Simon was pompous and scheming, yet somehow charming in his obvious desperation to impress the grant committee. The way Mars delivered lines like, "I would like to say I love your hair," with his thick, completely fabricated accent, became one of the film's most quoted moments, showing his incredible ability to make even throwaway lines memorable through sheer force of personality. Born in Chicago in 1935, Kenneth Mars grew up in a show business family with his father, Bernard "Sonny" Mars, working as a radio and television personality. After studying fine arts and acting at Northwestern University, Mars moved to New York City, where he spent years performing in theater productions, slowly building the skills that would make him one of comedy's most reliable character actors. His early career was spent mostly on stage, where he learned to create fully realized characters even in small roles, a talent that would serve him well throughout his film and television career. Mars became best known for his collaborations with director Mel Brooks, starting with his unforgettable performance as the Nazi playwright Franz Liebkind in The Producers in 1967. His portrayal of the deranged German writer was both disturbing and hilarious, establishing Mars as someone who could make audiences laugh at even the darkest material. He continued working with Brooks in Young Frankenstein as Inspector Kemp, the wooden-armed police officer, and later appeared in History of the World Part 1. Beyond his live-action work, Mars found great success as a voice actor, most notably as King Triton in Disney's The Little Mermaid and as Grandpa Longneck in the Land Before Time series, bringing warmth and authority to these beloved animated characters. In 2006, Mars received devastating news when doctors diagnosed him with pancreatic cancer that had already spread beyond his pancreas. The disease made him too ill to continue his voice work, forcing him to step away from roles like King Triton that had brought joy to millions of children. He spent his final years fighting the illness while surrounded by his wife, Barbra Newborn, whom he had married in 1977, and their 2 daughters. On February 12, 2011, Kenneth Mars died at his home in Grenada Hills, California, at age 75. Kenneth Mars left behind a remarkable body of work that showcased his incredible range and commitment to making every character memorable, no matter how small the role. Mabel Albertson. Mabel Albertson's role as Mrs. Van Hoskins in What's Up, Doc? Was perfectly suited to her specialty as Hollywood's go-to actress for wealthy, imperious women who looked down on everyone around them. As the hotel guest, whose valuable jewelry becomes central to the film's chaotic mix-up of identical plaid bags, Albertson brought decades of experience playing exactly this type of character to the role. Her Mrs. Van Hoskins was everything audiences expected from an Albertson performance: haughty, demanding, and completely convinced of her own superiority, yet somehow still likable enough that viewers didn't mind watching her get caught up in the mayhem that Barbra Streisand's character created wherever she went. Born Mabel Ida Albertson on July 24, 1901, in Haverhill, Massachusetts, she came from a family of Russian Jewish immigrants who struggled to make ends meet. Her mother, Flora, worked in a shoe factory to support the family, while also pursuing her own dreams as a stock actress. Mabel's younger brother, Jack, would also become a successful actor, best known for playing Grandpa Joe in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. After graduating from the New England School of Speech and Expression, Mabel began her entertainment career in vaudeville during the 1920s, then moved into radio work in the 1930s, where she became a popular performer and even contributed script ideas and dialogue to various shows. Albertson didn't break into movies until she was already 50 years old. But once she started, she became one of the most recognizable character actresses in Hollywood. She specialized in playing judgmental mothers, interfering mother-in-laws, and wealthy society women who made life difficult for the main characters. Her most famous role was probably as Phyllis Stevens, Darren's neurotic mother on the television series Bewitched, where she would invariably end each visit by telling her husband, "Frank, take me home, I have a sick headache." She also appeared in major films like The Long Hot Summer, Barefoot in the Park, and On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, always bringing the same perfect combination of authority and comic timing to every performance. During the mid-1970s, Albertson began showing signs of Alzheimer's disease, a condition that was not as well understood or discussed publicly as it is today. The progressive illness gradually robbed her of her memory and cognitive abilities, forcing her to retire from acting. She spent her final years in Santa Monica, California, cared for by family members who watched helplessly as the disease took away the sharp wit and commanding presence that had made her such a memorable performer. On September 28, 1982, Mabel Albertson died at age 81, with her ashes later scattered in the Pacific Ocean. Mabel Albertson created a gallery of unforgettable characters who brought structure and humor to countless films and television shows during Hollywood's golden age. Liam Dunn. The courtroom scene at the end of What's Up, Doc? Belongs entirely to Liam Dunn, whose performance as Judge Maxwell turned what could have been a simple wrap-up into one of the film's comedic highlights. Dunn played the long-suffering judge, who had to make sense of Ryan O'Neal's increasingly complicated explanation of how he ended up in San Francisco Bay with a car full of people and a collection of identical plaid bags. His perfectly timed reactions and deadpan delivery of lines like, "No, but it's consistent," when Howard's story made absolutely no sense, showed Dunn's incredible ability to find humor in frustration. The way he gradually lost his patience while pulling out metal stress balls in a nod to the Caine Mutiny demonstrated the kind of subtle character work that made him so valuable to directors who needed someone to ground their comedies in reality. Born in New Jersey in 1916, Liam Dunn initially had no plans for an acting career, instead focusing on his education and eventually working as a casting director at CBS in the 1950s. It was during his time in the television industry that he began to understand how the business worked and started to see opportunities for himself in front of the camera rather than behind it. His entry into acting came relatively late in life, but his years of experience watching other performers had taught him exactly what worked and what didn't, giving him an advantage that many younger actors lacked when it came to understanding timing and character development. Dunn's breakthrough role as Judge Maxwell caught the attention of Mel Brooks, who was building his own company of reliable character actors for his comedy films. Brooks immediately cast Dunn as Reverend Johnson in Blazing Saddles, where his performance of a minister trying to lead a reluctant town in a rousing fight song became one of the film's most quoted scenes. He followed that with another memorable Brooks role as Mr. Hilltop in Young Frankenstein, playing the nervous town official who warns Gene Wilder about the dangers of the Frankenstein castle. Dunn also appeared in several Disney comedies including The World's Greatest Athlete, Charlie and the Angel, and Herbie Rides Again, always bringing the same dry wit and perfect timing that made him so effective in the Brooks films. In 1976, while filming The Shaggy DA for Disney, Dunn collapsed on set during the roller rink sequence. He had been suffering from emphysema, a progressive lung disease that gradually destroys the air sacs in the lungs and makes breathing increasingly difficult. The condition had been affecting his health for some time, though he had continued working despite the challenges it presented. He was immediately hospitalized after his collapse, but his condition was too advanced for treatment to be effective. On April 11, 1976, Liam Dunn died at age 59, with John Fiedler brought in to complete his final role. Liam Dunn proved that great character acting could elevate any scene, turning small roles into memorable moments that audiences would remember long after the credits rolled. Ryan O'Neal. Ryan O'Neal's performance as Howard Bannister in What's Up, Doc? Showcased a side of the actor that audiences rarely got to see during his career as a leading man. Playing the mild-mannered musicologist who gets swept up in Barbra Streisand's chaos, O'Neal proved he could handle screwball comedy with the same skill he brought to dramatic roles. His Howard was the perfect straight man, reacting with increasing bewilderment as his orderly academic life gets turned completely upside down by a woman who seems to create disasters wherever she goes. The way O'Neal played Howard's gradual transformation from buttoned-up professor to a man willing to abandon everything for love showed his range as an actor, even though many critics and audiences would always think of him primarily as a dramatic leading man rather than a comedian. Born Charles Patrick Ryan O'Neal in Los Angeles on April 20, 1941, he grew up in a show business family with his father working as a screenwriter and his mother as an actress. Initially, O'Neal had no interest in following his parents into entertainment, instead focusing on boxing, where he compiled an impressive amateur record of 18 wins and 4 losses, with 13 knockouts. His athletic background gave him the physical presence that would serve him well on screen, but it was a chance encounter with television work in Germany, where his family was living temporarily, that introduced him to acting and changed the direction of his life completely. O'Neill's breakthrough came with his role as Rodney Harrington on the nighttime soap opera Peyton Place, which made him a household name and teen heartthrob in the mid-1960s. This led directly to his starring role in Love Story in 1970, which became the highest-grossing film of the year and earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. He followed this success with Paper Moon in 1973, where he starred opposite his real-life daughter Tatum, who won an Oscar for her performance at age 10. Other notable films included Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon and the comedy The Main Event with Barbra Streisand, though none matched the commercial success of Love Story. O'Neill's later years were marked by significant health challenges that began with a leukemia diagnosis in 2001, followed by prostate cancer in 2012. Despite these setbacks, he continued working occasionally, including a recurring role on the television series Bones, where he played the father of the main character. His personal life often generated more headlines than his professional work, including his long relationship with Farrah Fawcett and his complicated relationships with his children. On December 8, 2023, O'Neill died peacefully at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California, at age 82, with his death certificate listing congestive heart failure as the cause, with cardiomyopathy as a contributing factor. Ryan O'Neill's career spanned more than 5 decades, during which he created memorable characters that entertained millions of people around the world, even as his personal struggles reminded everyone of the human cost of fame. John Hillerman. John Hillerman's appearance as Kaltenborn, the hotel manager in What's Up, Doc?, was brief but perfectly memorable, showing exactly why director Peter Bogdanovich kept casting him in his films throughout the 1970s. When Hillerman's character surveys the fire damage in Ryan O'Neill's hotel room and dryly tells him, "No, I don't think so," when Howard tries to say good morning, he delivered the kind of understated comic moment that made him so valuable to filmmakers who needed actors who could make every line count. His Kaltenborn was the voice of reasonable authority trying to deal with completely unreasonable circumstances, and Hillerman played the role with just the right mix of professional courtesy and barely controlled irritation that made the scene work perfectly within the film's escalating chaos. Born John Benedict Hillerman on December 20, 1932, in Denison, Texas, he grew up as the son of a gas station owner in a small railroad town, about as far from Hollywood glamour as anyone could imagine. After studying journalism at the University of Texas, he served 4 years in the United States Air Force from 1953 to 1957, working in maintenance and achieving the rank of Staff Sergeant. It was during his military service in Fort Worth that he first discovered acting through a local theatrical group, initially joining just to meet people in town, but finding that he had a natural talent for performance that gave him a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. After his discharge from the Air Force, Hillerman moved to New York City to study at the American Theater Wing, spending the next 12 years working in professional theater and appearing in over 100 stage productions, including classics like Henry IV Part II and The Great God Brown. Despite his extensive stage experience, he struggled to make a living as a theater actor, eventually moving to Hollywood in 1969, where his friendship with director Peter Bogdanovich led to small roles in The Last Picture Show, What's Up, Doc?, and Paper Moon. His biggest break came in 1980 when he was cast as Jonathan Quayle Higgins III on Magnum P.I., where he perfected an English accent so convincing that most viewers assumed he was actually British, when in reality he learned the accent by listening to recordings of Laurence Olivier reciting Hamlet. Hillerman won an Emmy Award in 1987 for his portrayal of Higgins and received 4 consecutive nominations for the role, establishing him as one of television's most beloved character actors. After Magnum P.I. ended in 1988, he worked sporadically in television and films before retiring in 1999 and returning to his home state of Texas. He lived quietly in Houston for nearly 2 decades, staying out of the public eye and enjoying his privacy. On November 9, 2017, John Hillerman died at his Houston home at age 84. with family spokeswoman Lori DeWall confirming that the cause of death was cardiovascular disease, though no specific details were provided. John Hillerman proved that great character acting could transform even the smallest roles into memorable moments, while his signature role as Higgins showed how the right actor could make audiences completely forget where the performance ended and the real person began.